Right, okay, this is going to be a video on what, you won't find this on YouTube, might be very, basically, this is the truth of what happened with races and the different ethnic groups on Earth. Um, yeah, I'm going to talk in first person because it's going to be more fun that way. Well, basically, when I'll start right at the beginning. Okay, the let's start with the page one of Genesis. Basically, um, the first man that was created, not from the clay, not Adam, right, was giants, basically. And it says on the very first page of Genesis, the very first mention of man being created in God's own image and likeness. They were huge, real huge, and that the reason for that was because when it mentions, because there's quite a bit of truth in the Bible, and quite a lot of bollocks as well. But the truth, I'll talk about the truth. When the subject is noted on the animals, and then man is to look after them, subdue them, and basically supervise them. Um, Man was not made to be easily killed and threatened by the animals that were created, lions and what have you, were, if you basically, to the average first man, the giant, a lion, a male lion, would have been about the equivalent size of, say, a 6 foot guy, human, holding a Staffordshire Bull Terrier. Yeah, that was the comparison difference between a male lion was like the Savage Bull Terrier, and yeah, and a fully grown 6 foot tall human man. So that gives you an idea of how big the average first man giant was. Right. Well, basically, everything was going smart on Earth, and there was no humans like us as we know it yet. Okay. Now, cut a long story short, power went to the heads, and they had a few fights and family bloodlines and what have you, and they had a war, and yeah, it was a bad war. There was weapons used. Honestly, this sounds crazy, but the Mahabharata speaks of this, and the Baghdad Vita, the war that went on then. I think this could have been the war that um, is the result of the human man being created. Sorry, the start of chapter 2 in Genesis, where it mentions the human man being created. That war was before that, and was the reason it says the Lord God had caused it not to rain for a while. And that's, when it changes the name from God to the Lord God. Now, the reason it's Lord God, as we know, a Lord is a landowner, and that refers back to the first page when the giants were being made to supervise all the rest of the earth. Lord God caused it not to rain for a while because the firmament was set up with the shutters and everything that controls the weather and the winds and everything like that, and so they could control whether it rained or not. Because of the nuclear fallout, the ones that were left went underground that had the weapons of terror, to basically hide from the fallout. Now, when it was safe to go up again, obviously, if you let it rain, you just spread it out everywhere. So what they did is just let it dry out. Anyway, they don't mention any of that. It's just a big jump in the Bible from the first place then to this Lord God, right? So we're talking giants now, Lord God, okay? Because God means guardian, basically. It comes from the word guardian. So they were, yeah, like I said, supervisors of the wildlife and life on Earth. Spirit of God made these physical beings to do this, to take over, basically, right? So that happened, and it said there wasn't a man to toil the ground and what have you, and a bit. So what went on then was, it doesn't mention this either. I think this may be what the war was about, but the air of the heir to the throne, or the prince, the head prince at the time, was what we know as Jehovah. That's why you have the kingdom of Jehovah's Witnesses, because he is a king. He was the king of earth. Now his brother was called Ea, EA, right? Why many of the important words we use have EA in them. And yes, English is the original language, because it's, look at it, Anglish, and is angel language. Angels mean the direct helpers of God, the guardian, the chief. Okay, so anyway, Ea, the brother, got rebranded because of a fallout between the brothers, a constant sibling rivalry, evil, Satan. So Jehovah is the king, heir to the throne. He's the spoiled brat prince, and his brother, who's actually older but didn't get the throne for reasons of succession, I can go into that another time, is slandered the evil one, Satan. So Satan and God are actually brothers, right? Okay. Anyway, right. So there is a big, the Watchers basically is one of their nicknames, but Ijiji was the original correct name in the language for basically the labourers, the direct servants doing all the work. Now they were mainly mining, and it was a huge mining operation. The main thing on Earth, once they'd set up the giants, the first men, set up their civilizations, all the old ancient temples and the wonders, huge doorways. This is why. The skin was like, let's say they were 20 times bigger than a man, let's say, or 10 times bigger than a man. That means everything was 10 times bigger. The skin was 10 times thicker. The eyes were 10 times more. Everything was 10 times more. So. Or however many times it was, it's all proportionate. So this is why they didn't need clothes, they didn't need sunglasses like we do. The children were born easily, they could run through bracken without shoes on, and nothing would cut them, and animals wouldn't harm them. See, this makes total sense. You might say, I'll quickly just slightly digress, you might say, where is the remains now? Well, there is lots of giant remains that slept under the carpet by the Smithsonian Society that control archaeological digs, paleontology, the museums. It's all hush-hush, and actually big bones have been branded what we know as dinosaurs. Dinosaurs never existed, and in the way we're told, and the big bones that have been found are actually from the giants, the original man. There's never been a dinosaur skull found, by the way. So, anyway, come back to the point. Man was created as a, there was the big fallout happened, the big war, and it was all because of the Ijiji, the Watchers, the labourers basically, were getting treated really badly by Jehovah. He was just he's an arsehole basically, as the Bible shows, and they revolted, and they basically said, we're not working for you anymore, fuck you. There was a huge strike, and not just a strike, they were going to lynch him and do him. Now he panicked and went to his brother, because nothing was going to get done now. They refused to do anything. All industry and everything, agriculture stopped. Okay, and he panicked because then obviously everyone was starving and stuff. They went to him and said, sort it out. They wouldn't work for him, so it was like a vicious circle. He went to his brother, who wasn't quite Satan at the time yet. He was the actual engineer of a lot of this, the industry, everything, right? We basically, pioneered everything that we know, did, and taught it. Well, basically, what we did was make what we then see in chapter 2, man of his own image and likeness. Now that was made out of the clay. They say clay is a term for matter, biological matter, and the human was made, as you know, Adam, whatever, it's a bit of a metaphor with Adam and Eve, but yeah, the human was made, and the first, it was made sense to make the replacement of the worker for the giants exactly the same as them. That's why we look exactly like the giants. Yeah, they are giants of us, but a lot smaller, so we were no threat to them. Okay, so the very first, this was all done in Africa through genetic clay. It was a big process. Sumerian tablets explain all this and go into detail about it. It's quite amazing. Around Adam's calendar, I think, was there was one of many, but there was that was one of the cloning plants, and they were known. The first ones were made because it was in Africa. The first ones were made was breeding primates with small primates with the giant man, the original man, the giant's DNA, and to make a reduced sized version. And this is why the original people in Africa are black, because they had to deal with the climate, because their skin was that much thinner, so they needed the melanin. I think they use small primates to mix in with the human to get this. Personally, that's what I think. Sorry, I know. Anyway, I remember, but yeah, what happened is Jehovah just got greedy as usual, and he just wanted more and more and more and more work, slaves basically. They're black-headed people, and yeah, it just got a bit out of control. But there was an experimental city made, because what we did was decided to say we need different types of worker. So that's what the ethnicities, right, were created. So this is why the Oriental people seem to be very intelligent, very dexterous, very industrious, and they're not physically very big, because obviously that was the trade-off, because otherwise they would have been quite dangerous. And you have the Caucasians, the white people. We were the last ones to be made. Okay, and it sounds pretty horrible, but they basically made as just the favourite pet, like breeding dogs. You've got the wild, sort of the worker dogs. Then you've got your pug, like the collies and the Labradors and that. They're basically like the equivalent of like the black-headed people, the black people, the original Africans, workers. They did all the mining basically, replaced the Ajiji, the watchers that quit. And then basically, yeah, Jehovah and the giants wanted, they were fascinated by these miniature versions of them. Yeah, perversion came in that. That's what Adam and Eve and the knowledge of finding out about they were being molested and covering themselves and all that sort of stuff. The circumcision and all the blasphemy of boohooing of sex and all that. That all comes from that. Because before that happened, and the snake Satan that came along, yeah, the one that basically didn't like the idea of them being molested and sexually abused by the fucking king over and his mates. So he told them. And once they found out, once I told them, they covered themselves up in shock horror, and then the rest, you can read the Bible, the Bible for the rest, and they get expelled from Eden for basically finding out they were getting molested. Eden, let's go back to that just quickly. Garden of Eden was around what we know as the North Pole. Okay, and that's why the Caucasians, when they got left to their devices after being expelled from Eden, they were the pets basically, and the sex toys, the favourites. Like I said, they were the last ones made for recreational purposes of Jehovah and the giants. Quite nasty, isn't it? We were just made to be bummed, basically. That's why you have Scandinavians and, yeah. Basically, the white people, blue eyes and blonde hair and what have you. They're the rarest on Earth, as you know. There's a lot more brown-eyed people, dark-skinned people, black-haired people than there is blonde, blue-eyed and redheads. So that explains that. Now, before we go to there, an experimental city was set up to hub to watch all of the different races. It was 4 races basically, all integrate, and everyone spoke the same language. And this place was called Babylon, the city of Babylon. And Babylon was shut down by Jehovah because he wasn't allowed down there in it, because he was banished to the heavens and became Enlil, the king of the commander of the air, the sky. He was banished from Earth, from the ground, because of sexual abuse, basically. This is true. Thor was banned for sexual abuse, yes, right, because Jehovah is Thor, okay. Anyway, he got so frustrated with having to watch them and not go down there, he basically said to his brother, they're making too much noise, that bloody city is making too much noise, that Babylon, split it up now, split them all up, throw them all over the earth, and I don't want them, this was because they conspired to get together and build a tower to go up and complain about things. That's what the Tower of Babel's all about. He freaked out about it and said to his brother, stop them doing, look what they're doing, look what they're doing. So Satan, the one that actually cares, the creator, was split all the people up across the earth, and that's why, and was ordered to give them all different languages, make them all worship Jehovah, but with different different pantheons, different ideals. This is what you have the different orthodox religions. This is why but they're all strikingly similar. This is why you have pyramids and you have temples across the earth from different ethnicities. When they, history books will say to us, oh, but they didn't. How could they all be so similar when they didn't know and travel and communication? And this is because it all came from the same place, Babylon. And that's why when people say, oh, Babel, you're babbling on, that's where it comes from, because the noise was the excuse used. He couldn't sleep. Apparently Jehovah couldn't sleep above in the heavens where his new home was, because of the noise coming from Babylon, from the people. Okay. So, if you got all that, we can resume another time. That's what happened.